anxious as I was getting on. I didn't notice it yet. I'm John Burnham, I think. Yeah, I used to be John Burnham anyway. And, but who knows who I will be after today. That was one day when I gave up about identity and what you are at work. I gave up being head of department, which I've been for many years. In my first meeting, when we were, after that, we were introduced one day, and I said, I used to be John Burnham, and that's what it felt like. I used to be somebody, but what will you become after this? That presentation in some ways showed how people, Lisa and Jenny, had used John's ideas in order to move forward and to create new practices. I'm going to do a little bit differently, is to have a practice which is called the actually not knowing position. And throughout today I've been revising the presentation to use the words and the kind of concepts and discussion today. So sometimes theorists give us new ideas in order to move forward, and sometimes they give us ideas which explain what we're already doing. I think it's a nice reflexive relationship. But I wanted to talk first a little bit about theorists and therapists, and then give an exercise for you to do. So, like people said, this distinction is an awkward one that can artificially separate people into different camps. And I've certainly seen some therapists who behave more like theorists, and some theorists who behave more like therapists. So I don't think it's a tight divide. Thank you. Well, what are we to each other? Barnett Pearce came up with a nice phrase which I use: theorists are the therapists for therapists. What he said is, you go along as therapists and we give you a new idea, preferably one that you can't understand, for quite a while, and then we do workshops together, we produce more books, and eventually you get the grasp of it. Then after that, you get very excited, you create practices, and then you get bored. Then it moves from originality to orthodoxy. And then we give you some more ideas that you don't understand. And you have to work hard on understanding them, creating practices, what to do with them, so on. And he described that. So thank you, John, for being one of my therapists over the years. And it sounds like you have been for other people too.
But you've been bored many times.
Well, you've written so many books.
We can go on like this for the rest of the afternoon.
Therapists, what are therapists to theorists? I think therapists are the doers and users of the words of theorists, and are often terrified that they're not doing the theory right. They often return to the therapists, the theorists, and are uncertain about the practices, a little bit like the last two presenters. What are we using these ideas? The ideas sound so beautiful, and yet our practices often seem so clumsy. At least mine does anyway. Making the most of John's words that matter to you. I've been trying to pluck out phrases that people have been using and to include them in this last piece. And John said we need to work with small details, not broad generalities. So I wanted to make this exercise very particular to you. And he said it's not so important. I thought it was important to have that phrase that began this day and reverberated through, to just say it again. I did this from memory, so I hope it's close enough. It is not so important how I use language, but how I take you into account when I am using it. But how we do it. It's a beautiful phrase, but how do we do that? And I think this is connected for me. I picked this phrase out because it connected with me with what I'm hoping to do by this exercise that I use. This is the actually not knowing position. And the not knowing position, I think, is useful in many ways, but it's a struggle. And I think what makes it a struggle is our own values. Because as people begin to tell us their experience, we are influenced by how we might value that experience. It's very hard to stay actually not knowing. When you have experience about something, you may feel that you don't know enough about what they're talking about to ask them about it. You may have a particular position that it doesn't seem such a big deal, and you just miss those words in the client, and you get attracted to others. So developing the ability to privilege and take account of the other is, I think, describes this position. What it is about interviewing somebody about the significance of an experience in their life without knowing what that experience is. So it would be, I would often in a workshop ask people to think of an experience that they'd had that they were quite pleased with, whether in their personal life or their professional life. Then often one person would come forward and I would interview them about it. And when I said that, when they come forward, I said, what you need to know is that I'm not going to ask you about the experience. I don't want to know. I have a disinterest in this. I'm interested not in the content of this experience, but in helping you to process this in parts of your life. And a number of people who, when they've been told that they don't have to say what it is, have changed the thing that they want to explore. There are some things that people are a little embarrassed about. Maybe it wasn't so good. Maybe they thought that why should other people be attracted to this, and so on. So that not being obliged to say what it is releases people from to explore it in some ways. So usually I would talk with one person, and when Gail asked me to do this, she said, I need some, what do you need? I think it was only 4 days ago. Something like that. She said, will you do something then? And I said, okay. She said, what will you do? I said, well, I'll do a not knowing interview with the whole group. And she said, oh great, that sounds fine, put the phone down. I thought,
What's that?
what have I agreed to do? And here I am. I thought, oh, they'll all be very friendly. Yet have a good time. They're very cooperative, and looking around, I can just see cooperation oozing. So, this to do with the whole group. I'll be asking the same questions, but of course there'll be many different responses. So, I'm going to ask you to think of an idea, a words, concept, a phrase, a quote. I don't want to restrict you anyway, but think of something about John's work that could have been, you've heard today, it could have been refreshed today, it could have been something you read a long time ago. So if you can just think about that, and choose one if you can. And think, how long ago did you notice this idea or those words? Was it in a book? In a conversation? A seminar? Perhaps during a workshop? How were you feeling that day? Were you alone or with colleagues? Did those words, that idea, that phrase, that quote, seem immediately useful, or did it slowly grow upon you? Take some time, or was it a flash of inspiration? As I'm asking these questions, some people might just stop and think about one particular question and not read through the rest. You can stop at any moment and consider. You don't have to go, I'm just going to read the questions, but you will decide which question is pertinent to you. What effect has the words, the ideas, concepts had and might yet have in your significant relationships? For example, who did you want to tell first about those words and quotes? How did you contact them? Did you email them, text them, give them a call? Who was it that you wanted to share that with? What effect has it had, or might it have, on your future relationships with friends? Because these ideas are to do with people's lives. Our professional life, our personal life, family, colleagues, or clients. Who might you not want to know? Who might squash your enthusiasm for this and you keep it private? What it means or could mean to you and any other participants involved. So after you've noticed this, you may have started to engage with these words and quotes. Does it easily fit with, or usefully challenged your favourite ideas. All of the ideas and quotes that you already had. This one just slot in. You think, yeah, oh, there's another one. That's great, that confirms, that reassures, that adds to what I know. Or did it extend your thinking in different ways? Those ideas that seem attractive, you notice them, they're striking, but you don't grasp them at first. You need to go away, talk to somebody, try it out in practice, go and read it again, and so on. So, was it comfortable fit immediately, or did it require you to extend your thinking in practice? If you shared this idea with others, who became inspired by the words themselves? Sorry, was it the words themselves, or was it your enthusiasm for those words? Sometimes the words may not mean as much to other people, but something about you and what those words have done to you may capture other people's imagination. That's what they notice, your enthusiasm, not necessarily the words themselves. What effects did or might you notice those words having for them? Will the effect on you to see the responses of others to your enthusiasm or your quotations or what you've learned and so on. That can have a responsive, relational and reflexive effect. What influence do or might these words have in different areas of your life? Is this pacing okay? You won't believe how difficult it is for me to go to school. How would you hope your clients may notice the effects of these words and quotes? You may not share them directly, but you may be influencing how you are with people, what you say, what you do. And people who've known you for some time, or clients that you've worked with some time, may notice a slight or subtle or major shift in what happens. So, what would you hope to be manifest in how you are? If you shared these words with others, how might they become inspired? By the words? I've done that. Repeat it. It's worth repeating, isn't it? All together? Okay. So, I'll stop there for 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Now, if you've been answering these as I've gone, I'd like you just to share. Somebody else, see which question attracted them, what their experience was of this exercise. So if you can share that with other people. One of the most important things I've learned of John from what Jim said was just one more thing. One question and response. Make it a good one. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
Thank you. The first question there, how would you hope your client may notice the effects? I think this whole, these words, they embrace to care. And I think that caring is the word that comes to my mind, that if you care, and that's, I believe that today has been all about, and to understand how our work influences and shows how much we care, therefore we want to change the world or make it a better place at least. So that's what I thought about.
So hoping about the effects people
Yeah.
might notice that we show, because I do believe you do care.
Yeah.
So it may be more obvious to them in
Yeah.
one way or another.
Yeah.
John, thank you so much. Thank you.